Hello everyone, this is Mako, Georgia 64's editor. We have the Hypocritical Gamer here.
Hey guys!
Along with good friend Chris.
Hello!
And my good friend Maverick.
Good evening.
This is the inaugural episode of the Shark Tank, my podcast in which we discuss various topics that which you may or may not find interesting, but we will talk about it anyway. Today's topic is going to be impactful anime that, specifically anime that has impacted our lives personally. So first off, I would like to find out from everyone, what is your first anime that you've ever watched?
Alright, so I'll start out, and the first anime I ever watched all the way through, from front to back, not just little clips of Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! Because there were those, but the first anime I ever watched all the way through was Dragon Ball, just the series in general. I feel like this is probably going to be most of our answers, but we'll have to find out. Anyway, so Dragon Ball, specifically, I was kind of shown Dragon Ball Z when I was very young. Wasn't allowed to watch it. Then I saw Dragon Ball Z Kai, still not allowed to watch it, but I watched it anyway. And then I heard that Dragon Ball Z was better, so I started watching Dragon Ball Z. Then I found out about Dragon Ball, so I watched Dragon Ball. And then I found out about Dragon Ball GT. I watched 2 episodes, I didn't watch anymore. So that's pretty much how that worked out. And yeah.
So, as for myself, I have to say that my anime started actually with Yu-Gi-Oh! 4K edition, or 4K, 4Kids edition.
You watched 4K Yu-Gi-Oh?
I know.
When was this?
It was very high tech for the
I
time.
didn't even know they had 4K Yu-Gi-Oh!
Was that the original Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, it was actually the 4K dub, or 4Kids dub Yu-Gi-Oh! That was on, I think it was on Nickelodeon.
I don't. No.
It was on 4Kids TV.
Yeah, 4Kids had their own channel.
Yeah.
No, they did. That's right. Yeah.
It wasn't really their own channel, but it was like Fox or
But
something.
I watched it on Channel 32, which was CW.
Right, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was on the C-Dub, huh?
Yeah, it was on CW, and yeah, 4Kids gets a lot of flack when it comes to anime. But they didn't just do anime. I mean, I think 4Kids had a hand in the Saturday morning Sonic show also.
Well, you see, Sonic X was also an anime, though.
Well, not Sonic X though. I was talking about the Saturday morning Sonic Adventures show.
I don't know about that one though. However, when it comes to 4Kids, I feel like everyone has a secret warm spot they have for 4Kids. Like everyone loves to hate it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So that means we all kind of secretly love 4Kids.
The original X-Men cartoon.
Everyone loves what they did with Pokemon. Pokemon actually wasn't that different from the original.
It really wasn't.
I didn't actually really watch Pokemon. My preference was Digimon. I'm the heathen.
Well, no, you see, I wasn't allowed to watch Pokemon, so I barely watched any Pokemon. Once my parents saw like one episode, and they're like, "Oh no, we don't want you watching this," and so then I wasn't allowed to watch anything. Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z, I wasn't allowed to watch any of it.
What were you allowed to watch? Grass grow,
dry. I could watch
Street.
Scooby-Doo. Yeah, Sesame Street. Scooby-Doo was amazing.
Okay.
Scooby-Doo was the shit. That was what I watched.
Okay, Maverick, how about you?
The first anime I watched, I would have to say that would probably be Naruto.
Oh no.
Naruto, okay.
Well, I mean, it's true. I didn't watch Pokemon.
Sure, of course.
Digimon.
Yeah. Understandable.
I don't think I've still seen a single episode completely of any of the Dragon Balls.
Alright, so he's the heathen.
I'm the heathen.
So he's the heathen.
That's actually real interesting because
the Dragon Balls compel you.
Almost everybody's seen Dragon Ball, so it's always really interesting to.
It's refreshing actually to hear someone say, "You know what? I've never seen Dragon Ball Z." Let's be honest. Most people seen Dragon Ball Z, not Dragon Ball.
Right.
Yeah.
If we're just talking about the population of the world, yeah. Most people still have memories of original Cartoon Network. English dub.
Rock the Dragon Ball Z.
What's really interesting about
that sounds like 4Kids opening.
What's really interesting about Dragon Ball Z and how how people have or haven't seen it. Like he said, you know, he hasn't seen a single episode of Dragon Ball Z. The question is, if we went back to the original Dragon Ball Z, would he be able to watch it and not think it sucks since the Frieza fight lasted 25 episodes?
Well, see, that's the thing. Depending if we wanted to watch it in English or Japanese, because
I do not watch that show in Japanese. I cannot stand Goku's voice in Japanese.
Yeah, I used to be that way when I first heard it, but if you start with Dragon Ball and watch it in Japanese as a kid.
Dragon Ball Japanese was actually really good.
Right,
Yeah,
I vastly prefer the Japanese dub of Dragon Ball to the English dub. With Dragon Ball Z, it's a little bit different, but if you watch it first in Dragon Ball for Japanese, then when you get to Dragon Ball Z, it's a lot more bearable, and you can sort of follow into Goku's voice.
I just think that Christopher Sabat is a god.
Well, yeah,
Well,
I mean, duh. I mean, but see, if you're gonna watch Dragon Ball Z, you know, in the English dub, you're gonna watch the Sean Shamil dub. You know,
Right, well, that's the only real dubs you can watch without just looking online for them.
Right.
There's the original, well, not the original, but the remastered Funimation dub, and then there's also Dragon Ball Z Kai. And Dragon Ball Z Kai, I know I'll probably get hate for this, but Dragon Ball Z Kai is the one I would recommend watching. Yeah.
Well, you got see. Here's the thing: watch the Dragon Ball Z dub on Amazon. That way, you get the uncensored bullshit version, non-bullshit version.
Just to specify, when you say that you would recommend Dragon Ball Z Kai, are you talking about to somebody who had never seen it before, or in general?
In general, just that's the one I would recommend.
Well, considering I have not seen it, and you prefer it one way, Chris, and you prefer it one way, Peter, why don't you both try to pitch me the one you enjoy more?
All right.
Just for fun.
I mean, personally, like, one of the biggest reasons why I didn't like Kai is how off in different directions that it had taken me from the original show. You know what I mean? Like, I remember as a kid, also because, personally, like, that's one of the reasons why I was asking whether he would like the old Dragon Ball Z, when Frieza fight lasts 25 episodes, you know? And it's like, me, when I was a kid, I loved it, and I watched it, and by kid, I mean, like, 14 or some shit like that. And I watched it, and even though it lasted this long, until the end of eternity, I still loved it, and I was really into it, and I thought it was amazing, and Vegeta was my favorite character, don't hate. Because the show the show already hates him enough. Nobody needs to hate me.
Who would hate you for that?
But it's just like, and then with Kai, like, I can really see how Kai would be kind of like especially like, I'm not sure what time frame Dragon Ball Z, the original one, ended, and when Kai started. But Kai would be like, it's not that I necessarily hated it. I would prefer to watch the original due to the emotional ties that I have to the original show. But if I had to suggest one to somebody who had never seen Dragon Ball Z before, I would initially go with Kai, just because it's a more, beginner friendly, quote unquote. But it's more of a introduction. Exactly, it's more of a streamlined introduction to.
Okay, let's hear what Georgia64 has to say about that.
Right. The thing about Dragon Ball Z Kai is that they both follow the same storylines. To a certain point, Dragon Ball Z Kai is still kind of going on right now. However, the difference between them is that they cut out pretty much all of the filler. There are a few instances of filler that still remain in the Dragon Ball Z Kai. However, for the most part, it's all taken out. But what I really consider the selling part of this show is the fact that everybody who was in this show, in Dragon Ball Z, you can definitely tell that they are new to voice acting. In Dragon Ball Z Kai, they are much more experienced, much better at their craft, and also the dialogue is directly translated much more accurately from the original Japanese as to the original dub, which took lots of liberties.
If you go on YouTube, and there's tons of comparisons of identical scenes from beginning of very first from Japanese dub to the first Funimation dub to the Ocean dub to the Kai dub. It'll just jump from boom, 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 and you'll be like, "Wow, that the Japanese, that was the Japanese one. Wow, that one sounded like someone was talking into a shoe, and it just goes on, and then you get to the Kai. It's like completely different from the other two English ones, and that's because it's just phrased better. They knew what they were doing. They've been doing this for a while, and they're four kids. Funimation has become adept at doing this at this point, and and if we're talking about Kai, we also have to say that Vic Mañana has put out a fantastic intro for Dragon Ball Z Kai.
Right, Dragon Soul is, a very amazing opening song for just an anime in general. But it's a very good song. You might have heard it at one point. I don't know, but
but that is actually our next topic. Before we go on to that, Chris, we haven't heard your first anime.
Really quick, briefly before we jumped into my first anime, I did want to ask you, Peter, you said that the very first anime you watched all the way through was Dragon Ball. Was that actually the first anime you had ever really seen, or just the first one that you had finished?
Well, like I said before, I had seen bits and pieces of pretty much just 4Kids animes. I've seen bits and pieces of Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Sonic X.
Right.
But
so Dragon Ball was basically the first major one that you had seen. You could say that you stuck through and saw more than just 5 minutes of.
Correct. It really was. It wasn't what got me into anime, but it was the first one I saw.
So personally, I didn't have access to cable until I was probably 13 years old, and so I wouldn't really watch many of the 4Kids animes that happened to come out, especially since in my mind, even now, I don't really like to admit that some of those are classified as animes. But, as soon as we had gotten cable, it was when I was living with my mother. I was like I said, 13 or something like that. We had gotten cable, and then I found the wonders of Adult Swim. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, before Adult Swim turned shit, by the way. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm flipping through the channels.
Coast to coast, baby.
Yeah. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm just flipping through the channels trying to find something interesting, and then it's just like Cartoon Network, which is technically now Adult Swim, and I was like, well, what is this? And the very first anime that I had ever laid eyes upon, Inuyasha.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Inuyasha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell us your thoughts of this, because have you seen the show?
No.
Okay, so you're talking to 3 people who have actually not watched Inuyasha.
Yes,
Really?
this is correct.
Neither of you guys have seen it.
Wow.
Correct.
None of it.
As classic
No
as
movies.
it is,
Nothing.
Oh no! It's
no.
Yeah, it's super classic. However, I've only ever had one person ever tell me that I should watch it, but only because it's a staple of anime and not because it's actually good. So I said I'm good.
And
I've heard once you're an adult and you've been in anime, and with the quality we've got, Inuyasha isn't up to the same level. Kind of what we were talking about with Dragon Ball Z versus Kai.
Inuyasha came out forever ago.
Right.
Yes, we realize this.
It's
as for me, watching something new, I have to be in the right fucking mood for this, and so that's a staple with my character in general. So you have 3 virgin minds, as it were, for Inuyasha. Why don't you tell us your thoughts?
So the very first thing that basically attracted my attention to Inuyasha is obviously the very first anime I'd ever watched. I had no idea what was going on. Not one single bit, because I came into the middle of a story arc. Whatever, I'm not sure. I can't 100% remember what. I believe it was in the middle of the 3rd season.
I believe that's not going to change our opinion on
No,
it.
I understand.
Where
Of course,
exactly
of course.
you-
But it's in the middle of the
you
3rd
came in.
season.
Oh yes, I remember that part.
And it's just the character, as I was watching it, obviously we're different people when, 10 years later, 12 years later from where we were, that back then. But the characters, to me, at the time, it just felt like so much more than what I had been previously given in the shows and cartoons that I was already watching.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It wasn't Scooby-Doo.
It was not Scooby-Doo. And I'm trying to remember the voice actor for Inuyasha. Something Ian Cox, I think? I believe is the voice actor for Inuyasha. The actual character himself. And it's just for Inuyasha specifically, the manga was really good and was obviously really streamlined. And the anime, as all animes do, does have a certain amount of filler, because as you catch up to the manga, you gotta say, "Whoa, hit the brakes real quick."
Mm-hmm.
And The storyline of the show is kind of sort of normal. It's just at the time it was something that was really original that you didn't really see much of, but especially when it came to feudal Japan. Demons, half demons, magical powers in a sense, and most of the magical powers coming from the spiritual side, such as priestesses and priests and such.
Well, now that is a huge trope in anime nowadays.
Exactly. Well, that's something for another topic of my problems with current day anime. That's sure.
Quite honestly, it was a trope when Inuyasha came out as well. Because Inuyasha came out in...
That's fair.
I believe it came out in '99. The anime
in America or in Japan?
In Japan.
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I know for a fact that it was... Most of its runtime was early 2000s.
What really solidified the characters for me is that a lot of the characters just seemed really personable, and then it was really easy to find an immediate favorite, depending on So in the initial group, I found my favorite instantly, which wasn't Inuyasha. It wasn't the main character. It was the human monk Moroku, who was the main enemy of the show. Naraku had cursed him and his entire family. It started with his grandfather giving him what's called the wind tunnel, or in Japan it was called the kazana, I believe it was. Mm-hmm. And essentially he has to cover his palm with a prayer beads, because if he releases it, it becomes this giant, massive tunnel of wind that sucks up everything, and essentially they die. And so as time goes on, the hole would get bigger. And eventually, when it hits a certain stretching point, it would just swallow him himself. And so one of the best parts about the show is he was always constantly trying to make babies with women, because he wanted to continue his line just in case he didn't survive far enough to be able to destroy Naraku. He wanted his son to be able to do it, or his daughter to be. He always wanted to bear a son, though. And he never said once, "Give me a daughter." It was always, "Will you bear my child? Hopefully, son," kind of thing.
Okay, right. So according to this Wikipedia article, Inuyasha was first started manga in November 13th, 96, but it actually aired as an anime in October of 2000.
Okay, so it wasn't even.
I mean, you were close. You were a year off.
Richard Cox was.
Richard Cox, thank you. Yes, and I just want to also say that Rumiko Takahashi is one of the greats in all of manga land, so I love her artwork personally. But I just have a preference for the older style of animes. So I mean, it just really depends. I mean, based on the kind of things that you like, sometimes people might find it harder to go back to older things and still be able to find a 100% enjoyment out of it, especially if you haven't already seen it. Mm-hmm. We can go back to Dragon Ball Z, at least the three of us, and say, yes, I still like that. But
a lot of that's based on...
Exactly, based on the previous emotions and visuals that we've had from it. It's just, the three of you going back and watching the old Inuyasha. That is another... Inuyasha pissed me off because the original series actually ended with them not actually killing the main villain. And it basically ended with them saying, "We'll get him one day," kind of thing. And then it ended.
Also, spoiler alert. I mean, no, I don't need to see it.
Look, guys, I mean, we're going to be talking about anime and, ones we haven't seen, ones we have seen, and spoilers are going to happen.
Right. You know what? In the beginning of this video, we'll just put a little subtext guys, we might be discussing spoilers, so watch at your own risk.
I can tell you that they continued the series about 7 years later and made it Inuyasha Final Act, which continued it because they realized they pissed a lot of people off. And the movies were great, too.
Yeah.
There's 4 of them.
So we have actual anime movies that people don't think are actually dog shit.
Personally, yes.
There are lots of movies that people.
I was actually going to say
the third Inuyasha movie is actually one of my favorite anime movies. Period.
I was curious because you said they continued it 7 years later.
Yes, there was movies in between.
That sounds like they're going to screw something up.
Yeah,
but
so the movie, one of the biggest things about the movies is that Inuyasha and his brother, who is one of the most popular characters in all of the show, Sesshomaru, who is a full demon. They're all based on dog demons, basically. The most elusive and least described character in the show was their father, who is apparently one of the biggest, most powerful, badass demons ever to be known. The only time you see him is the remnants of his bones when they go to take a sword from his, his rib cage, basically. And so this movie specifically revolves around the two of them and their relationship with the father and the swords that were given to them from him. And so it really just, really made everybody's mind just go, holy shit, his dead, kind of thing.
Right.
So
the movies,
That's right.
were they were a continuation of the show, or were like
Independent.
they were rehash?
They're
or
independent.
Just independent. Okay.
The storylines, I
So
mean, the characters were recurring. The actual plot themselves were independent from the show, and both shows, correct?
All right. I understand. Okay.
Okay.
I was just wondering because I was thinking, like, that sounds kind of like what Berserk did with the old '90s anime,
No.
and then the movies.
Which was basically the same show, just
Right.
smaller.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
So-
we'll hold off on talking about Berserk for just a bit.
So, we've talked about our first anime. What about the first anime that actually got you into watching the genre? The anime is like, I'm on board with this shit.
Oh, Inuyasha. for
Okay, it's obviously going to be
Yeah.
the same.
Oh, yeah.
It could be
sure. For
the
me, yes, yeah.
I can honestly say it wasn't Yu-Gi-Oh for me. So,
Sure, of course.
but
Inuyasha started my torrential downpour of money that really I should probably have not spent on DVDs and manga and so forth, in high school at least.
well, I gotta say that even though before this show I watched Attack on Titan, and I watched Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, I will have to say that probably Fairy Tail is the reason that I am in the genre.
Really? That
yeah.
recent?
We got into.
I'm literally showing everyone a tattoo of the Fairy Tail logo on my shoulder.
And it started with the anime?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't
I
read
started
the manga.
with the anime.
You didn't read the manga first.
No, I didn't read the
Okay.
manga first. I am reading the manga now. I'm all caught up on the manga.
Sure.
I do want to say that I find that rather interesting because when you were watching Attack on Titan and Full Metal and stuff, I already thought you were like deep sunk in the
I wasn't.
genre.
That's
really
what I meant
wasn't.
by recent, because I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Fairy Tail is actually a pretty recent
I'm
anime.
I'm what a
So
lot of
that
people
was
would
actually kind
call
of surprising.
I'm what a lot of people would call a baby anime nerd. You know,
Mako
They're
and I-
just starting.
Yeah.
Mako and I both are. See, I didn't start really watching anime because I watched Dragon Ball Z in high school, but I didn't really start watching anime until 2013, late 2013.
Wow.
yeah.
When did you start watching anime, Maverick?
I started watching probably earlier than that, but I feel like I know the least out of here. I was just gonna say you're talking about being a baby anime nerd or something. I'm just like,
So I'm
I like
I'm
anime.
finally the oldest in
but-
something.
Congratulations!
Wow. Yeah, because I mean, I think that mine started when I was in like 5th or 6th grade or something like that, and that was
See, I think
early 2000s.
Hypocritical Gamer and I really have the same kind of upbringing in the sense that our parents just had this stigma against anime, and we didn't want, and weren't allowed to watch it, and so we kind of stayed clear of it. And then we became adults, and
I don't know what that's like.
we
does.
became adults, and we just slowly started to experiment and find out what we like. And I started out slower than Hypocritical Gamer. So,
Right. So, Maverick kind of brought up something interesting because you were, Mega was talking that only us, he made it sound like only us two were the ones who had sheltered upbringings, but Maverick has a very similar sob story.
yeah.
I wouldn't call it a sob story. It's just a story, you know, and you can go back, and some things aren't worth going back, and some things are, you know, different. I mean,
You just
you
weren't
mentioned-
allowed to watch things.
Right, but
Play things,
Chris
listen
mentioned
to things.
Chris mentioned that he, you know, something we'll go into later is that he has issues with a lot of current stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm not in that old, you know, I haven't seen all the older stuff, thus I'm fine with what is, you know, so.
Right. So, what would you say really got you more interested into anime?
Well, I mean, real quick story on this. I mean, I watched most of Naruto all the way through the, Shonen Jump. And then there was a Shippuden, and I'm just not a fan of the time breaks and stuff because it just kind of I come back to something with, okay, this isn't exactly what what I'm used to. These aren't the characters. They've grown a little, and I miss this. But I mean, I watched all of that because everyone was, and it was exciting, and it was Naruto. It was the greatest thing that ever has been. Yes, no, I know.
You know, I mean, I was exactly the opposite with you, with Naruto, because for me, I was watching the show knowing Shippuden was a thing, and I was literally watching Naruto to get to Shippuden, because I was just like, I cannot stand these kids. I want them to grow up. You know, I want them to get older. I want them to mature a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I looking back on it now, I like watching the scale of how Naruto's character changes throughout the first the first show.
I think that's one of the only interesting, like one of the very few interesting character developments in the original Naruto. That especially from the time break is how Naruto, main character, everybody, like progresses from this whiny little brat. Granted, he had no parents. But, you know, to who he is now, I mean, granted, all the other characters, Sasuke, emo. Yeah. You know, Hinata, stalker. You know, and then, Neji, asshole. Kind of thing. It's just, I think Naruto's character specifically was really one of the only, personally, like, completely interesting, like, progressions for the show.
And for me, I came to realize that Naruto, for me, isn't about character development. I like Naruto because I feel it's one of those things that's got a lot less of, we are doing a quest, there is a villain, we defeat it, and it becomes powerful and powerful until you get the Dragon Ball Z effect where we're destroying
final form.
Well, see, here's the thing is, when I was watching Naruto, when it became about, being strong and spectacle fighting and everything, is when I was the least interested. Right. I can tell you when Naruto, when I was the most interested was when it was the smartest show. Was when the fights were smart. HG, help me with names here. I'm awful
Shikamaru.
At names. Not Shikamaru. Yes, Shikamaru is part of this. But I'm talking about...
Oh, you're talking about when Sasuke and Naruto worked together to free Kakashi from the water prison that Zabuza put him in.
Zabuza! And, oh my god, I loved Zabuza, and they died so fast! It sucked! Both Zabuza and Haku are still to my day, so two of my favorite Naruto.
Yeah, how sexually confused do you get when you see Haku?
I have a really weird boner.
Yeah. I think Haku, real quick, is one of the characters that had the most potential to be something that didn't get to be something.
Right. But that actually made Zabuza and Haku more interesting.
Which, I'm great with. I just think it was something to say.
I am 100% down for, making really cool characters and finding out how finding out their interesting characters after they die. Because there are certain shows out there, shows that I am a fan of, that just refuses to kill characters.
So speedrun favorite Naruto character.
Speedrun I would Shikamaru. No.
Maverick.
Orochimaru.
Bring the hate, Naruto.
Get out!
Mine is definitely...
Oh, yeah.
Now have that man removed!
Okay, hold on a second, guys. Calm down. I'm looking at the timeline right now. It's looking fucking messed up and stuff. I'm going to have to do some editing to make sure that we don't blow things out.
Warning, ear volume. My favorite is Neji.
Neji. Yes. Yeah,
Anyways,
Neji's pretty fun, yeah.
The one thing I would take away from Naruto is I feel like, to me, out of the ones I've watched, Naruto had one of the better, like, the whole world felt connected and thought through.
Yes, like, it was really great when you heard Kakashi explaining that each of these big lands each have their own ninja village, and each of these ninja villages sort of are at odds with each other and competing for, it's more than just some sort of secret army. The ninja aspect of the show is an actual economy of the land around them.
Right.
And it really...
You could take out all the characters and you would still have a fully functioning, well-stocked world.
Correct.
the moment that Naruto was killed for me was during the 100,000,000 filler episodes between the end of the actual Naruto story and the beginning of Shippuden.
See, that is what is great about me watching Naruto right now, because I am slowly going through Shippuden right now, and I have a filler list that I can skip.
I didn't mind the filler until I hit the cooking ninjas. The minute I got to the cooking ninjas, I was just so done.
You're just like, okay, hold on a second. So have you watched any of Shippuden?
Yes.
Okay, I was just wondering.
Oh yeah,
watched, like, 3 episodes.
Well, funny thing about Shippuden is I've watched significantly less of Shippuden than I have of the original. But I have finished reading Shippuden for the manga.
So I would like to point out that if I had like watched as much Shippuden as the rest of you have, because I know where Mako is with Shippuden because I'm watching it with him right now. You two have barely watched. You haven't really watched much of Shippuden.
I've probably watched a handful, like 30 episodes.
Right.
Like 3.
Right. So, if I had watched about the same amount as you guys, my favorite character would probably be Shikamaru, not Naruto.
Okay, thank God. Whew!
I'm
You
just
have redeemed yourself.
What's funny is that's not the show that got me hooked on anime. But we decided to go into a long conversation about it.
Of course.
right. That's what's
Before
so
we
great about
end on the
this.
Naruto conversation,
Oh no.
it's gonna be another speed round.
Uh-oh.
Favorite death scene. Favorite character death.
Alright, spoilers, by the way, even
Spoilers!
though...
Plug your ears!
Third Hokage.
Third.
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Peter?
I have to think of non-spoiler, the ones that you guys haven't seen.
Oh,
yet.
Oh, I've
watch
read
it.
it completely.
You've read the entire
I've
manga?
read all of Shippuden, yes.
Oh, okay.
And
Like
apparently-
what, synopses, or did you read the manga?
I read the manga.
Okay.
And apparently Maverick says he's not going to watch any more Shippuden, and I'm pretty sure I know the spoiler you're going to say. So
Actually, I bet I do too.
Well, I think that my favorite death is probably Pain's.
Pains? Okay, that's fair. I mean, that's kind of painful, but, you know.
Oh,
Hey! My favorite is also probably the saddest one for me, which was definitely,
Jiraiya?
no, Asuma.
Okay. Asuma.
Asuma was also one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, I can see that.
And his death was actually, it just hit me right in the feels.
Do you guys, do
Right,
Maverick and
feels.
Mako, do you remember who Asuma is?
I'm having trouble. I'm
Okay, so
I
we'll,
believe so.
we won't say anything just because...
Just because he doesn't, he's not
Right,
there.
because you
Right,
are
right,
watching the
right.
show still. Mako
Okay,
is
so
watching the show.
this
still.
character didn't die in the original show.
No,
Right,
it was
okay.
Shippuden.
He's still
it was
alive
late,
right
It was
now.
like, I
Okay.
think, what, late Shippuden?
No, it's definitely early.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're right. Definitely early. You're right. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Because
Okay.
it was before Pain attacked the village.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so you were saying Maverick.
Sorry.
Um,
Speed rounds.
Before
You finish. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Son of a bitch!
Shippuden wasn't really interested, so I decided to give a try to, at that point, what I believe was considered to be like,
Sailor Moon.
no,
Okay.
like, if you watched Naruto, obviously you hated this because it was the other anime.
One Piece.
One Piece!
One
no.
Piece!
Oh, One
And
Piece.
I
Love it.
enjoyed it immensely, but I still don't think that's the one.
Oh,
What
man,
got
holy cow.
me was actually Oron High School Host Club Academy.
Oran High School. Oh my god. I remember this because you were like, dude, seriously, Oran High School Host Club, watch it. And I was,
It's weird, but trust me.
So
and I started watching it, and I'm just like, so it's about this girl who pretends to be a guy because, you know.
I've never actually seen Oran High.
I haven't actually seen
It's
it either.
pretty damn fantastic.
You're telling me there's a
It's
girl that pretends to be a guy?
Well, not
Do
really.
we see her in the guy's
beginning.
locker room? I need to know for
No.
science.
No.
Genre.
It's more. It's
Slice of life.
It's slice of life
romantic
meets
comedy.
yes meets
Dramedy.
huh?
Dramedy.
No.
Not really.
No
It's
Fan service.
I would say not really again. I mean, there's a little bit considering it's a host club, but it's one of,
There's a
it's one of those. It's one of those ones that's just kind of insane. You know, I'm
Right.
thinking a little Konosuba, a little Ranma, a little...
Ranma 1/2.
Yes.
Oh my lord. That was also made by Rumiko Takahashi, who did Inuyasha.
I did like that one, the little bit I did get to see.
1/2 was great. Continue.
But it was one of those things of just, you know, when they talk, that they mention, you know, I'm the star character, and you're like, how does he know this? Or, you know, you're all supporting cast. Or the fact that this character, I mean, the main character is played by, well, one of the main characters is Vic Mignogna, so you can know the kind of things he can do with
Right.
being over-exaggerated.
Well, of course, he's definitely one of the best
You've
voice actors
got
ever.
Todd Haberkorn and I'm trying to remember the other guy's name, but they play identical twins who are mischievous as hell, and it's just like the whole thing is just insane, but it's also very cute, but it's hilarious, and in the end, you actually, there's enough of a story to fall in love with these characters.
Right. So it's basically a slice of life comedy.
I really
It is.
I really
Very
felt
much so.
like
You know, it's like 23, 25 episodes.
was there because when
That's
I
it.
first I mean I maybe there's more now, but I mean when it was originally
Oh,
when I
longer,
watched it
longer.
on Netflix, I felt I had the distinct feeling that that when I got to the end that I was like, where's the rest?
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So I mean,
It was only one season.
What? Has anybody watched Soul Eater?
yes.
Yes.
The ending was actually just the fucking worst.
The manga's different, though.
Yes, I know. Thank God.
Yeah.
God, I hated that ending.
It's
with
kind of
a
like when
fiery
you were.
fucking passion.
It's like when you were stuck with Full Metal Alchemist, and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood's not out yet.
Yeah.
It's like 2005, so you're like, shit.
So on the topic of romantic comedies, or not romantic comedies, but slice of life comedy kind of things, speed round. What's your favorite romantic or slice of life
Go
comedy?
the other way.
Peter. Slice of life comedy.
Slice of life.
Speed round.
Ooh. I'm sorry. It's. I haven't seen as many of those,
Uh-huh.
but the only one I can think of right now that's just a fucking joy to watch for me is Flying Witch. It's a newer one.
Okay.
And I really like that one. It's kind of like Kiki Delivery Service, the anime.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be on.
That'd be the same one.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah, no, I'm in HG's corner. I am not. I haven't watched as many, so I would have to say. Would you say that Yuri on Ice would count?
I believe so. I think
Yuri on Ice
would
is
count
definitely
as a
slice of life.
Yeah, so
Mixed
I would
with-
say Yuri
mixed
on
with
Ice.
sports.
Yeah,
Mixed with
I would say
sports.
Yuri on Ice because I'm fucking in love with that show right now.
This is going to be a secret for anybody who is listening. One of my favorite genres is slice of life romantic comedies. Yes, thank you.
Anyway, so don't tell anybody. It's a secret. Do not tell anybody. If anybody asks, it's
Whoa.
always Attack on Titan because it's violent and that's manly.
So,
Chris, where did you go? I didn't like you. Kind of just blanked out for a second. I totally missed
My
everything you
favorite
said.
is obviously since I have a personal preference for older animes. I'm not sure if anybody here has watched it, but it is School Rumble.
Part of my sister loves it. I'm supposed to watch it amongst many.
Did
other
not like the
things.
ending, as always. Even in
Yeah.
the manga, the ending was still kind of meh, but it didn't end. Basically, mostly because it didn't end the way I wanted it to.
okay, so then here's your next speed round, and then we can have a conversation about this. Favorite ending to an anime? I'll go and say Brotherhood.
Wow.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood had the most perfect ending of an anime. Fight me in the streets.
This is gonna be a hard speed round. This is gonna be like a turtle round.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't speak
Favorite
this.
ending to an anime because that's really hard for me because I hate it when animes end.
Well,
They
see,
never make me happy.
See, there's a certain YouTuber that I watch that will right now remain nameless. That he has a
Georgia. It's Georgia.
I was gonna say PewDiePie, but
it is a
PewDiePie is known for talking about anime.
Oh,
yeah, right. His
PewDiePie-
theory is
PewDiePie, if you're
okay,
listening,
guys.
send us some shirts.
His theory is that anime usually begins kind of rocky, but once they start to get their stride, they get really strong and really good. And the middle is where everyone really, feels, the story and the characters. But then once it starts rounding down to the end, it feels like the writers start to slip up or just are not as strong
They're
in the
like
writing.
forcing things
Yeah,
to
they're
happen.
forcing things to happen.
I have a theory of why why that can be with particularly longer animes, but we won't talk about that right now.
Right. So, does anyone have any other contributions? Because I'll be more than happy
I
to
think
talk about Brotherhood.
that one of my favorite animes that
think
actually had an ending was like, I think that personally, if I had to have a favorite ending for an anime, it would have to be a shorter anime because I know it's going to be short.
Sure.
Now this one, I believe that there was like 13. It's either 13 or 26. I can't remember. That's a pretty big difference. But it was called Skryed. Not sure if anybody has seen or heard
I haven't
of
seen
it.
it. I haven't seen it. But
It's an older one, obviously. But it was just like the ending to that actually it didn't feel rushed. It was completely different from the manga, mostly because the manga had titties everywhere, and they had to have it
why
on TV.
wouldn't the anime have that?
Right, but I mean, it's just the show ended in kind of like in a non-controversial way, and it also didn't feel rushed. So I think that probably is one of the animes that I was most okay with.
Okay.
Does Avatar count?
The Last
Yes.
Airbender.
Yes, Avatar does count
Ooh,
because
that's a good point.
because Georgia64 is subscribed to a certain channel that made a very good point about the Avatar: The Last Airbender anime.
Shout out to Mother's Basement.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just like to help the smaller channels.
How did you know where I sleep? Just like to help the smaller channels.
So yeah, no. So I will grant that and say that yes, we will be including Avatar: The Last Airbender.
We're like
Because Avatar
calling the Swan Black because Mother's Basement has over 200,000 subscribers.
Avatar: The Last Airbender ended superbly. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people who's like, man, I just wish it never ended. I was like, I'm actually happy that it ended the way it ended. I'm happy that we got what we got, and it was a perfect show. And you know what?
It ended at the right time.
Yep.
They closed everything well. It wasn't drawn out.
Exactly.
And that's actually the exact reason that now that I think about it, I did think of one that I thought ended pretty well.
Yeah.
And that would be Fruits Basket.
I actually don't know anything about that one.
See,
Slice of
I've
life
only
romantic
watched
comedy. Not my favorite.
Fruits Basket is definitely the shoujo. It's not the first shoujo I've seen, but I never actually ended up finishing Fruits Basket because, quite honestly, when I first watched it, I didn't know it was shoujo. So I was expecting all of these zodiac animals to get into fights.
Honestly, that's the reason that Oron is what got me. It was like, oh, you don't have to have 10-episode fight scenes. You can have anime about this and this and this, and yet it still gave me some of the things I loved about One Piece and loved about Naruto and loved about, and it turns out, oh, so anime is more of this.
Right.
But-
Anime itself is not actually a genre.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
going strictly off of like how you said that Fruits Basket wasn't really how you expected it to be, because you were
Right.
expecting
If I went back into it now, realizing what it's going to be and not...
you would not be confused.
Right, no, it's not be confused, but
I
let
would be
down.
confused. Oh,
I was let down because
All right.
I was up for some... Like, I was looking forward to this sort of thing. I was like, okay, let's see some shit. And then I was like... Okay, I don't think I'm going to see any shit.
I think that another great conversation point off of that is like animes that you watch that most certainly are not what you expected.
All right, but before we
Fruits
get into
Basket
that,
is kinda like that.
let's just wrap up our original topic, which was animes that just got you into watching other animes. You all pretty much said your piece.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say mine out
The
very
stupid
quickly.
speed rounds ruined everything.
Yeah, I know. But again, send all the hate my way because again, I started watching anime for real in 2013. Attack on Titan. I watched Attack on Titan. Then my friend in college said, "Here, watch Fairy Tail. Watch that." And then I watched Brotherhood. And then I just kept on going.
I'm like you actually. When I started after my initial watching Yu-Gi-Oh or Dragon Ball Z Kai, my first actual I don't know. It was on Funimation. So I mean, the first show that I watched on the internet, from a website, was Attack on Titan, and I loved it. I loved every bit of it, and I enjoyed it. But it didn't send me seeking for more anime. I was just like, this is what this is. This is its own show. And then after that, you introduced me to Georgia. You introduced me to Brotherhood. Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And I started watching that, and I fell in love with that. But again, this show did not send me seeking out more anime. It was actually not until I started watching Fairy Tail.
Right. See, it's really funny. I watched Attack on Titan. And I was like, I want to watch more anime. That's what after I finished. I was like, I want to get the fuck into this shit. Show me some more anime.
So, if I might clarify real quick, because we're at a very interesting point. Because you said it wasn't until Fairy Tail, and then you saying that straight on the first anime you watched is what got you into anime as it is, and that's really it. Because I mean, again, with me, it was like the third anime I watched where I understood. Oh no, this is what anime is. But you're saying it's the first one for you.
Well, I mean, the first anime I really watched was Dragon Ball, obviously. But
okay, but it wasn't.
But it wasn't the one that really got you into into anime as a whole.
Right. Dragon Ball was just a one-off thing for me, and then in college I was shown Attack on Titan. And I was like, actually, in college I saw Attack on Titan abridged done by Team 4-Star, and then I was like, I want to see this show. So I started watching Attack on Titan. And I was like, wow, this is completely different from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's for sure.
So I was like, I want to watch more anime. So my friend while I was watching Attack on Titan, he was watching Fairy Tail because he was getting back into anime. And he was like, ooh, you should watch Fairy Tail. I'm like, okay. Now, I didn't realize what Fairy Tail was, but I was expecting something more like Attack on Titan.
The topic of animes you did not expect how you wanted them to, or something.
Right. So it took a while for me to get into Fairy Tail. It took me a while to get into Fairy Tail. I'd say around episode 20, I got more into it, and I was sort of just along for the ride until then.
Right.
But then I really got into it, and I became a huge fan of Fairy Tail. And once I caught up with the English dub, because I was watching English at the time, and I didn't want to watch Japanese at first. That I'm different now, I don't care. But eventually I was like, oh man, what do I watch now? And my very same friends, not yet, but everyone's telling me watch Full Metal Alchemist, so I watched the original 2003 Full Metal Alchemist show, and I loved it. I really liked it. I didn't love it, but I really liked it.
You enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Which is fair. I mean, it's okay to say you liked the original Full Metal Alchemist when you never read the manga.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure everybody clarifies.
It wasn't bad, but I will admit that even without knowing anything about Brotherhood or the manga, I was just not as attached as I got attached to Fairy Tail eventually and Attack on Titan.
Of course.
But then it got to the ending, I was like, that's it? I will have to watch Brotherhood. And then I found out that Brotherhood was more like Dragon Ball Z Kai and less like Naruto Shippuden, because it wasn't a continuation. So I was like, oh goddamn, I'm not watching Brotherhood. And then my same friend who introduced me to Fairy Tail said, fucking watch Brotherhood. So I'm like, okay. And yeah, Brotherhood is the fucking best. So no one will argue with you.
You started this out with, I know how many people are going to give me hate for this, or whatever you said about Attack on Titan being the one. Personally, now this is obviously coming from a bias, I have a bias towards older anime, and obviously we can talk more deeply into that later, but the biggest thing that got me with Attack on Titan, which I really enjoyed, was the fact that it took an unrealistic scenario and made the character have realistic, responses towards it. Rather than, there's giant thing eating people, I'm a superhero, I can beat that. It's like, I'm shitting myself because everybody's dying and I'm terrified.
Right, what really made Attack on Titan... Yeah, what really made Attack on Titan interesting...
That's what I liked about it.
Is the fact that it's just a complete look at how people handle themselves under this constant threat. Like, the Titans could literally be nothing more than a plague, and it would still be the same show.
Oh yeah.
I think that like one of the other things like
Emotionally, it would be the same show.
there are
Right.
so many people out there that as you described your people might dislike your fact that Attack on Titan was it, that think that Attack on Titan is overrated or that they hate it. And yet I'm pretty sure these might be the same people that are trying to say Sword Art Online is one of the best animes that come out in existence. Okay? So I think that both shows
Okay.
I think that
where we
both
take a
shows
break.
have I'm
No,
gonna
no,
make
no,
it
no.
I'm gonna make it
Let's
pretty
burn the
quick.
channel to the ground.
You
man.
brought
Here we go.
brought up the bane of everything.
I
You
think
brought
that-
up Sword Art Online of
I
everything.
think that both shows have two very similar yet different, really quick, two very similar yet different problems. Attack on Titan has a lot of people saying it was overrated and don't like it. Sword Art Online has a lot of people that are saying that it's the best thing on the planet and yet it's overrated. It's kind of like a flip-flop. You know what I mean? Like, I think that Sword Art Online is
sides of a coin.
one of the biggest overrated shows on the goddamn
I think
planet.
Sword Art Online is one of the worst animes.
I hate it.
Yeah, it's
I hated
No.
I hated the fact that it completely it was like you're stuck in a video game. Congratulations, now you are in a team romance, and it's like what?
See, the funny thing is that
Now we go into the hateful part of
I
this.
actually thought it was interesting that they went that route, and I was along for the ride for that one. That wasn't what turned me off of that.
Was it the
It's
fact-
the fact that they introduced this horror-like theme to you in the first episode,
Yeah.
and except for episode 3,
Yep.
is never brought up again, except for maybe the cool mystery two-parter for episode 5 and 6,
Yeah, I
where
mean-
they're trying to figure out whether this person was really killed in a safe
In
zone or
episode
not.
3, people were literally killing themselves.
Yes,
You
but
know?
those are the only... Look, episode 1, 3, and the two-part 4, 5, and 6, not 4, I would say are the only...
Did you watch the
Good-
entire series?
I watched all the way up to Elfheim. I never watched Gun Gale Online or further.
To be fair, I think actually Gun Gale Online is actually good. Personally, I loved Gun Gale
Right.
Online.
I hear,
Everything else about it was
I
actually
hear-
just the worst.
I hear both sides on
Right.
Gun Gale and on.
Also, the people who hate Gun Gale Online probably really love the fucking Fairyland.
Oh my god. Elfheim was worse than Sword Art Online.
Somehow.
So I gotta say that I did not. I wasn't a part of this, initial hype for Sword Art Online because most
Right.
people go into the show thinking this show's actually not bad, and
That's how it starts.
Yeah, and then they start watching and it's just like, I got to episode 2 and I was just like, I'm bored.
Fair.
I literally was like, this show blows. I think it was you, Georgia, who was just like, no, just keep watching. It gets better. And
Uh-huh.
and this is before he figured out that the show blew. So, but
I watched the entire show, and I used to
trust
tell
your first
people I
impression.
like the Sword Art Online aspect, but
the idea of the show is great.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't think it was handled well whatsoever.
now here's where the hate train comes for me because Maverick just said, so you trust your first impressions. So if I would trust my first impressions, then I would fucking hate One Piece. Because let me tell you
Same, actually.
Let me tell you what.
I
I hated One Piece initially.
you didn't hate it.
But I didn't like it.
You were disappointed with what you perceived as it promised you and what you believe you
I
received.
watched what, in my opinion, is one of the greatest intros to any anime ever. The first One Piece opening, and it was the English one. I was just on board, and
You were up for some adventure.
I was up for some adventure, man. I was just ready to fucking go. And I watched the first episode, and I was just let down. And I was just like, okay, maybe the second episode. And, it was the whole... It was very just setting up characters, and it wasn't for me at that point.
Sure.
And
It is a slow...
it took me a long time to get into the show.
See-
because Georgia made me stick it out.
I did.
I avoided One
because
Piece for as long as possible.
the thing about me is that when I was watching Avatar, I was watching it on this free streaming website. Nobody sue me, please. But I was watching it on that, and then I would look over in the corner and I saw
YouTube.
One Piece episode 650, and I was like, "Fuck that shit!"
Yep.
And eventually, I can't remember when in my watching anime career,
The last 3 years.
I had to audibly pronounce my quotations.
Career.
Yeah,
Correct.
in my career. Anyway,
Simplicity.
but I eventually decided to give it a chance. I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a chance. Yeah, I think Monkey D. Luffy is a dumb-sounding name. Yeah, I think he looks dumb as well. But I'm going to watch this, and I saw the opening. I was on board for that fucking opening. It got me hyped up, and stark difference is I felt that the show in the first episode delivered what the opening promised to me, and I felt like this was the beginning, not like one adventure, but I felt like it was the beginning of just the best swashbuckling adventure ever.
The beginning of your 650 episode long adventure so far.
actually-
How many episodes? There are?
Actually, it is 783.
My bad.
What do you have to say, Maverick?
I was gonna say the big thing for me with One Piece watching that first episode is, holy shit, this character is a lot more amusing than Naruto. Thank
Yes. Definitely
was-
a better introduction of Luffy than Naruto's introduction.
You know, I will say that I had to stick it out for a long time, but I wasn't really
I
into the
watched it in
show
Japanese.
at all. And Georgia kept making me watch it, and finally I got to Sanji's arc. It wasn't that
So was
long.
that?
That was around the 20 episode.
Yeah, I mean,
Sanji?
yeah, Sanji.
Yeah,
The cook?
he
The
has
cook?
he has the blonde hair.
Right.
Smokes
I
a cigarette.
could not remember his name. You're right. Yep.
It took me a moment too. I'm like,
He was the
The
guy
guy who
who
kicks.
He was the guy with
Yes.
that deep Brooklyn accent in The Sucker.
get out!
I watched it in Japanese.
Four kids joke, guys.
It was a Four Kids reference because Four Kids originally had One Piece.
You're joking. Holy shit.
They
You should see the opening.
the guns that they had were not guns. They were reanimated as water pistols.
No joke.
Huh.
Sanji's cigarette was a sucker. And have you seen Yu-Gi-Oh at all, the English version? All right, he sounded like Tristan except with a deeper voice.
Oh no.
So anyway,
No.
They also changed
Okay.
the name of Zoro
Matt.
because the Legend of Zoro. So
his
Zolo.
name was Zolo.
yeah, Solo.
Great.
So I'm in the Sanji's arc, and actually, Sanji was the first character that I liked. He was suave, he was cool, he just had this air about him that I really was on board with. I was like, okay, so I'll just continue watching it. And then I got to Alabasta, and fuck, God, did that arc just last too long for me. I got through Alabasta by the skin of my teeth, and after Alabasta came the getting to Skypiea.
Okay,
arc.
so hold on. I would like to hijack what your explanation for a second because I need to explain myself.
Okay.
So you know how everybody loves the Skypiea arc, where they go up into the Sky Island and it's like a huge fun adventure that's really a standalone adventure, has nothing to do with most of the rest of the story, but everyone fucking loves it, and I love it. The thing is that Mako here, I was watching it with him, and I could tell of how frustrated he was that he was not enjoying the show, but he was being forced to watch it. And so I made a judgment call that once they actually got up onto Skypiea and he got an understanding of it, we skipped most of Skypiea up until the Noland flashback.
Yep.
And then we watched it from that point, so that way we could get into the beauty of the Water 7 arc, which is still one of the best.
I can honestly say that Water 7 is the reason why I am now able to say that I am a One Piece fan.
I think
And-
as far as I got was just after they went up the mountain that water goes.
So you watched as far as I'm getting to the Grand Line.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
That's as far as I got.
Right.
So that was
I'm a
pretty
little
much...
farther than you.
That was pretty... So it sounds like, Chris, you stopped pretty much right at the beginning or the right before Alabasta arc would start.
Right.
And you
Describe
probably
Alabastus for me,
Okay, so Alabasta,
real quick.
pretty much what happens is...
Chick with the blue hair.
Right,
You
yeah.
know the chick with the blue hair.
If you
She was
don't...
a part of the crew for the whole arc. So
I don't think I.
Okay, so yeah,
Vivi.
yeah, her name's Vivi. Anyway,
Yes.
I thought there was more to it than that.
her name was Nefertari Vivi.
Oh, see, okay.
Because in One Piece, unlike what Naruto, I said Naruto. Anyway, unlike with Naruto, they actually kept the surnames first and the given name second in One Piece. So instead of it being, oh, my name is Luffy D. Monkey, it's Monkey D. Luffy. I kind of wish they had done that with Naruto instead of saying, oh, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. It's like, my name is Uzumaki Naruto.
That's because it's not ridiculous.
It isn't?
An actual Japanese-sounding name as opposed to Luffy D. Monkey? Yes.
I you know what? I'm on his side on this one. Monkey D. Luffy.
All right, but
Monkey D. Luffy. Okay, hold on. Internet. Monkey D. Luffy. Amazing character. He's a great character. His name is fucking stupid.
It is
There.
actually pretty dumb. To be fair.
well, Luffy is fine. And quite honestly, when you know about D, you're just like, there's no way you can't say D. And then Monkey is just, it's whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Eiichiro Oda kind of just wanted to make a monkey dude.
I'll be honest. I'll be honest with you. I know that there's something surrounding this D initial. I don't. It sounds like you know more than I do.
I don't.
Oh, okay. Okay. See, okay, guys. I am right smack dab in the middle of the Punk Hazard arc. That is.
You are smack dab in the beginning of
That's
the
what
Punk
I meant to
Hazard
say. I am in the beginning of the Punk Hazard arc.
I have
Which
no
is
idea what this is.
Me
that's
neither. I'm just like, okay.
episode number. Give me an episode number. Range.
It's the beginning of Punk Hazard. If you guys know One Piece, then you guys know
this is for their benefit.
Okay.
Our guests.
Okay,
don't
okay, it's like
I don't remember where I
580.
stopped.
Yeah, like 580.
Yeah, so like 500 episodes farther than I got. Nice. Okay, all right.
But yeah, I'm in the middle of the Punk Hazard arc, and so I am not caught up. I am slowly getting there, but right now I'm also watching Naruto Shippuden, and on top of that, I am now watching other new animes like Konosuba, as you guys are watching on this channel as well. I am also watching Yuri on Ice and a bunch of other stuff. So it's just, on top of everything, it's just really exhausting just to keep up with all these shows I'm watching.
Especially when there's 700 episodes to go.
And April's coming, so that means Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia are going to go back on the list. But luckily, those will be weekly releases, and it's not like
Right.
we're going to have to binge it.
Yeah, and we're going to be waiting for like 2 years before we get ReZero.
Oh yeah, ReZero is going to take forever.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts 3 will just be coming out when ReZero comes.
Oh, I do not know about
I
that.
don't know, we've been waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3 for 12 years? You know?
Yeah,
Anyway.
Kingdom Hearts 3 came out. No, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2005. So
It was
yeah,
that
it's
long
actually
ago?
yeah. It
12
came out.
years.
It came out in
Wow.
Japan in 2005. I think it also came out in late 2005 for the English, but I can't remember.
Okay, so back on topic. Actually, I think this is actually a good time to take a break.
Yeah, it is. This
So-
actually is perfect.
So actually, we're going to take a quick break. You guys probably won't notice, but we'll come back right after this.
All right.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Shark Tank. So we are still talking about anime. I'm still here. I'm Mako. I'm still here with Hypocritical Gamer, Chris, and Maverick. So next, I think we want to talk about what animes are we watching currently that is current, meaning which anime that is ongoing right now.
Right. But before we get into that, I just want to broach something because I've been called pretty much about 3 or 4 different things right now. Just to let you guys all know, Hypocritical Gamer, Georgia64, HG, and Peter are all the same person.
What about Theris?
At least outwardly. You know, he has multiple personality.
Right, but all of those are just facets of one personality. We don't talk about Eustace here. All right, so current anime that we watch that has made like maybe an impact, whether it be positive or negative. So Mako, why don't you start us out, and we'll just go around because we're sitting in a squarish circle.
Well, I will have to say that. Should we say that an anime that I just finished not too long ago, that came out last year, was My Hero Academia, and that was, once again, you're going to see a trend, guys. Georgia constantly just throws anime my way, and this is another show that he threw my way. And I really have to say that as a superhero genre, I'm sorry, I am looking at Maverick right now, and he is got a finger up his nose almost.
The one thing I wanted to say is do me a favor, no spoilers on this one, because it's one that I'm partway through.
Okay.
Okay. No
The best
spoilers.
you can do.
Okay, current anime, guys. No spoilers. Anything.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
One thing I have to say, though... One thing I have to say, though, is that My Hero Academia, for me, I was turned off from the moment I heard the name. Because it was like, it's another anime about a school. It's a weird school for superheroes or whatever. God, I haven't seen that before, you know. And funny enough, the first thing that came to my mind was Sky High from Disney, you know. But you know, I started watching it, and you know, funny enough, you know, Chris Sabat being
All Might,
yeah, was
that was Chris
awesome.
Sabat's theme song, by the way.
By the way.
Yeah. But I really started to really like the show because the main character just Deku, yes. He won me over. I really can't tell you what it was, because at first he bugged the shit out of me. It was just this whiny kid who's like, I wish I was special like everyone else. Is like, I haven't heard this story 1,000 times before.
Okay, Naruto.
But, you know, I mean...
That's the comparison I was thinking about making, but I think it's better than...
But, you know, he won me over in 12 episodes, which doesn't happen very often, you know? I mean, I got into Fairy Tail in 25 episodes. I got into One Piece in about 200, you know? I mean, this show won me over in 12. You know, I mean, it's pretty good for me.
When's the last time you watched an anime that you enjoyed from the first episode? Most recent.
Yeah, Brotherhood.
That was the most recent anime
Yes.
you've watched that you've watched the first episode and said, this is great.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, to continue off of that, I think part of the reason why is because your preconceived notion of Deku, of Izuku Midoriya, is that what you thought his character was and was going to be, as opposed to what it actually turned out to be. You thought he was like some whiny kid who just wanted to be special.
Okay, Naruto.
But in reality, he was a kid who wanted to save people, but didn't have the power to do it.
Right.
And how far have you gotten in the show, Maverick?
I'm trying to think of a good example without giving anything away.
Have you gotten past the second episode?
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't watched it at all.
You haven't watched it at all. Okay.
No spoilers,
No spoilers,
for current
then.
anime.
I feel like episode 2 isn't...
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a... I mean,
You can guess about... Okay, you know
I
what?
feel
Not
like
episode
you're
2.
more-
Episode 3 is where it happens, not episode 2.
Honestly, you could probably speak about it as you would like, because one, either I'm not going to remember, and two, like, spoilers don't really bother me as much as they bother some people, unless it's about something that I like diehard care
Oh,
about.
see,
I feel like this is part of the synopsis of where the story actually gets going, though.
Right, because...
I was saying I don't want to know what happens in episode 15, 20, whatever.
Right, or
Yes,
13,
I know,
which is as far as it goes.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
okay, so then this spoil... If you guys don't want to hear, then skip to whatever the timeline says. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
It says right now.
Sure it does. Anyway,
Where's it at?
okay, time mark that, 6 minutes in, whatever. We'll remember that time. We don't have anything to write that down.
I'll message you.
Hooray. Anyway, so, basically, you don't know at first which direction the show is going to go, because you believe it can go in either one way, is that he'll learn to be a hero without powers, or he's going to get powers, and you don't exactly know where it's going to go if he does get powers, because it's like, you introduce this character who wants to be a hero but doesn't have powers. But the direction the show goes is that he gets powers.
Yes.
He does get powers, and you're like... And at first, you're a little disappointed because you don't know... You thought it would be interesting to see this guy overcome the odds and become a hero, but that's not what My Hero Academia, the show, is about at all. It's not about somebody overcoming the odds. It's about somebody filling shoes.
Yes.
It's about looking into the psyche of what it means to be a hero. Not what it means to be a superhero, but just a hero in general. You know,
Yeah.
when not only when it comes to saving people, but just with people looking up to you. It's really an in-depth, very smart look, and the manga goes way further than where the anime is right now. It's just a very, very smart show that
Yes.
I really enjoy it, and it's really... I'd probably have to argue what I believe that kind of won you over is just your preconceived notion of what this was going to be, and then what it actually turned out to be, and you're like, okay.
Well, I can definitely say that you thought that the second episode was going to win me over.
I did.
That actually, in fact, did not happen. I would have to say that I got won over in the fourth episode. I think. What was the one where he was, training?
That was the third episode.
Was that third? Okay, so it was the third episode that won me over, because I just saw Deku and what he was and what his character was, and I was just like, okay, I'm in. This kid, I am behind this kid.
Right. He's very similar, actually, to Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan, in the sense that he has no talent, but through sheer determination and hard work, he manages to compete well with others, to actually hold a candle against others.
Oh yeah, and then there's the whole, kind of, becomes a big,
Yeah, he becomes a big Titan and starts killing everybody.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I have to admit, that really confused me when My Hero Academia went in that direction. But, it was... I came around to it.
Yeah. All right, so mine was My Hero Academia. Chris.
I got a couple, so I'd like to go.
Okay, so
all right, so Chris, you can possibly go last if you don't mind, Maverick.
Maverick.
Sure, why not? There's one I'm currently watching that, the funny story about this was I was just, I watched an old AMV I really enjoy. And then because YouTube, you go to another and another and another and another. I'm just enjoying music and...
You're just going further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and the editing and all this fun stuff. And then I found this one, and I'm just looking at this video, just going, I just cannot understand what is happening. So I ended up looking, I had to know what the plot was. What was the show actually about? Because I couldn't piece it together from the AMV. So I ended up finding Nanbaka.
Mako. Is that the one with the people in prison?
Yes.
Yes, okay, I've read the manga for that.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
Probably better than the show.
Honestly, yes, by far. Continue. Still a good show.
Yeah, and I don't know what to say about it. It's a lot of fun. It's very silly.
Very quirky.
Very, very quirky. A lot of fun characters. it's got some really interesting things to it. The fact that they break the fourth wall. Some of the characters at one point try to censor someone else because they're doing trademark things. It's crazy. Trying to remember another good example of that. They know they talk about who's supporting cast and who's what, or I thought this was this kind of show, or I thought this was, it's got a lot of exposition, and I'm not. And at first, I thought that was an issue in the show itself of constantly explaining the plot to you, and it's like that wasn't that hard. But the more I'm watching it, the more I feel like this is a design of. It's like pretending to try too hard. They're also throwing out these wacky things that are less slice of life and more of the more dramatic, I hate to. I'm trying to find a way to explain it without giving stuff away. But just it no longer is slice of life. But it does in a way that feels incredibly forced, and the more I watch it, the more I feel like it's parodying all of that as well. That's my opinion on it. They're still updating it on Funimation in season 2.
Right.
And I can't wait for the next one.
Right.
Awesome.
All right, so an anime. I was going to at first talk about my experiences over the past year with, or rather, the beginning of 2016, end of 2015, where I watched the gems of Studio Gainax and Studio Trigger, Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill. However, I actually want to hold those subjects for a different topic, because a current anime that I watched even more recently than that, while it was being simulcasted on Crunchyroll, actually, was Re:Zero. And Re:Zero, I have to say, has to be one of the strongest shows I've seen this past year.
I agree. Chris, you asked me the most recent show that had me hooked, first episode. This one was hooked on the second episode.
Okay, but
We're getting closer.
Okay, but actually, the second episode was still the first episode, because in Japan it was released as one episode, but on Crunchyroll
Double episode.
they released both the episode on the same day, but they split it into two to make their 30-minute thing.
Oh, that's right. So I guess, it was,
it technically would be the first episode.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
Yay, we got one.
Yeah.
More recent than Brotherhood.
Right. Anyway, the premise of Re:Zero is definitely not an original premise. It's an isekai. Do you know what an isekai is?
No.
It is someone from the real world finding themselves in a different world. Specifically, most commonly, a fantasy world. It's
Sword Art Online, everybody.
Yeah. It's very common. They're everywhere.
Sure.
But the thing about Re:Zero is that there is... Oh my god. Okay, so there's so much to talk about with Re:Zero. We won't get to most of it. So let me just...
Before we go into it, I want to know, are we willing to spoil the main point of the show?
Yes, I'm going to spoil the big sell point for the show that makes it worth watching for no other reason but there's still more that makes it worth watching aside from this one thing.
Rem.
Is that... yes, Rem.
Some people would say Ram.
Say what?
Ram.
Ramu. Ramu and Ramu. And that is the fact that it's not a video game that they're in. However, it sort of feels like a fantasy video game. Because there's magic, and there's fantasy creatures, there's demi-humans, and all sorts of other things that you would see in...
Sure.
Like an Elder Scrolls, or, WoW, or anything really.
Right.
Little spirit named Puck.
Right. Like what was the last time you saw a video game that had Puck, a character named Puck in it?
Dota.
Yeah, like almost every video game, or almost every anime that has fantasy in it. But regardless of that, is that the main character of the show, and only the main character, has the ability. He doesn't know how he got this ability, by the way, but he has the ability to respawn. And it's really interesting how he first found out that he can respawn.
Did he die?
Yes, he dies.
I figured that was
In
the
a
easiest
very,
way.
very violent way, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first time it's not super graphic, but regardless, the fact that he is the only person who can die and he respawns, so basically it's almost like time travel. He calls it a time leap. Does he?
No.
He calls it return by death.
Yeah,
that's what he calls it. He calls it return by death, where he returns pretty much to a past point. It's respawning, and he is able to then fix whatever went wrong last time, or try to anyway. And the main pull of the show is to see him struggling and constantly fail to get the way he wants the story to go. And he constantly becomes angry and depressed and happy and all these emotions that will get to you when you constantly die because you weren't good enough to get this thing done. And it's such an interesting premise, and it's done so well, in my opinion, that it really just hooked me, and I was into it the entire way through.
I want to point out an episode, though, and I think you'll be on board with me, is that one of the most beautiful episodes that I have ever seen in any anime actually comes from this show, and it literally is two people talking for 30 minutes in the same place. And
it's just the entire episode is them standing on a kind of a balcony, and they're just talking to each other. And there really aren't any cuts to any. There are cuts to, like, when they're talking about a certain thing that happened in the past. It'll sometimes cut to that thing while they're talking about it, but it's not going to be like a full-on Naruto flashback.
Sure. What about Dragon Ball Z flashback?
Yeah, what are those?
They're called 4 episodes.
I guess, but anyway, so they're pretty much talking about self-worth, pretty much.
Yeah, they really are.
That's what the conversation is pretty much about, and it did not bore me the entire way through, and I was on the edge of my seat this entire time because you grow to like both of these characters that are talking, and you want both of them to be happy, and you're seeing them talk and pour out their hearts to each other. And we're not going to talk about how the episode ends, but
needless to say, I ripped my own heart out.
Right.
Somebody died.
Right. But it's a very beautiful episode and a very beautiful show.
Yes.
And I can't wait for whenever they make enough light novels from the web novels to be able to make the anime. Because it was originally a web novel that made it more official once they adapted it into the light novel. And from the light novel, they're now branching it into an anime and a manga. Funny enough, the manga is the one that's behind. The anime and the light novels are further ahead, and the web novel is just way ahead.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you guys have, a chance to watch, what is it, 24 episode?
25.
25 episode anime. I mean, currently it is 25 episodes.
Technically, it's 26 because episode 1 is split into 2.
Okay.
But it's 25.
Yeah.
Sure.
But,
Anywhere between 24 to 26.
I literally say this is a good one. This is tops. This is like me saying, go watch Brotherhood. This is really good. Right.
So that show really did make quite a significant impact on me when I watched it. So, that's really my tirade. anyone has anything to add, doesn't have anything to add, I suppose
I
we
can't
can.
add anything to ReZero.
Alright, so we'll
I
move
haven't
on.
seen ReZero.
Right.
That's why I was
Right. Well, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I was simultaneously not only praising it, but I was also trying to pitch it to you both so you can
Right.
show you. I don't. How successful was I? Are you intrigued enough to
I
check
am
it out?
intrigued, actually. Yes, especially since I have a Crunchyroll account. So
Right,
I can
yeah, I
obviously
mean,
just easily watch
It is there.
Yeah.
Correct. All right. So anyway, your anime, Chris.
Right. So, out of current anime that are actually still airing and ones that literally just finished up last season that I still haven't finished because I am slow at watching animes on the time, there's a long period of time where, you know, as we call them, seasons, where it was, you know, fall, spring, basically anime seasons, you know, summer, fall, spring, summer, I believe it is. Yes.
Say what?
The anime comes out in fall, springs, and summers. There's summer seasons, fall, like
Series,
I should say.
there are 4 seasons in anime. There's a winter season, a fall season.
Okay, you're right. So
spring season.
so there was just over and over again that I would just constantly, like, I choose my anime based on currently these days by hovering over the picture on Crunchyroll, reading the little synopsis, and if it doesn't catch my interest immediately, I don't watch it. I've made that mistake before on a couple animes where somebody has suggested to me, such as ReZero. I'm 900% sure that I've scrolled over ReZero, read the description, scrolled past it.
You probably have.
You know, and so now it's probably one that I'm going to go back and check out, and it's a current flaw with me, you know, based on Turnay's animes. But this most recent,
There are a lot of animes that are on Funimation
Oh, yeah.
and Crunchyroll. You can't.
oh
just-
yeah, and there's the most recent season, because we're currently in the spring release, or has spring release not happened yet? We're still finishing up.
I think it officially starts in April.
Okay, so the winter releases of series is what kind of initially started re-peaking my interest in animes. The very first one that I started watching was called All Out, and it is a sports anime that is based on rugby, which is one of the least popular sports you think of that would happen in Japan. They obviously had a football anime. They've had baseball. Yuri on Ice, which is, I think, still considered a sport anime, because
Right.
ice skating is
Yeah.
considered a sport.
Figure skating.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, baseball, pedaling, volleyball, biking, swimming, free.
Have you guys seen
totally
Keijo?
actually.
I saw it.
I'm actually, that's another one I was about to bring up. Keijo was another one I was about to bring up. And so, so All Out really piqued my interest, because I really enjoy actually watching rugby, as long as it's not the Australian version and it is the UK version. Well, Europe, I should say, instead of UK. But anyway, so I first started watching it, and actually it had almost grabbed me in the first episode, based solely upon how, instead of a plain, boring, this is my super special slam dunk 360 Phoenix slam, whatever the hell it is,
Sure.
it actually kind of specializes specifically in, like, this kid doesn't know how to play rugby, and he's wanting to join a team, and they're going to teach him how to play rugby and have character development past that.
So this is an actual sports anime and not a shonen sports anime.
Yes, of course, there are obviously still things in the show that just do not happen in real life, such as the 14 seconds freeze frames on somebody thinking having a monologue in their own head when they just got ran past or something.
When was the last time you had a monologue in your own head?
Yeah, for 14 seconds as the enemies ran past me, just like, you know, frozen in time, waiting for something else to happen. But actually, it does actually kind of spit out, like, useful information on, you know, based on the sport of rugby, you know, what a flanker is, what a back is, you know, what a scrum is. Like, I'm 90% sure. Does anybody here know what a scrum is?
Oh, yeah, I do.
You watch rugby?
Yes, I do.
You know what a scrum is? You know what a scrum is?
Not at all.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
couldn't say
See?
the definition, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I know
So, I mean,
the
there's
idea.
obviously a couple things that you see in rugby that people are really confused about sometimes. And the show actually does a decent job of, like, pointing out that this is why this is happening. This is why this is happening. And then, completely apart from that, there's just the character progression. Granted, some of them characters look like grown-ass fucking men playing sports with a bunch of boys.
Yeah.
Of course. Like, the main, like, the captain of the team, he's not the main character. The captain of the team actually just looks like, you know, a ripped-ass tree trunk that is just ready to fuck some dudes up.
Well, let's be honest here. The common trope of anime is that, you know, the age is ambiguous.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Fuck
I mean,
yeah.
this 18-year-old girl, for some reason, has been chosen to be drawn as an 11-year-old girl.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and vice versa. This 14-year-old girl has the body of a 32-year-old woman.
Right,
you know?
exactly. I mean, in Inuyasha specifically, like, I know none of you guys have watched it, but the main character, Kagome, who is one of the most annoying characters in anime history, personally, but all she does in the show is yell Inuyasha's name over. Ugh. Anyway, exactly.
Inuyasha!
Congratulations, you have just successfully passed the voice auditions for playing Kagome. But anyway, so, like, when I first started watching it, I was like, okay, anime character females, nice, tall, alright, good hair, nice, boobies, sweet, she's 13, huh? Like, you know, like, and that just completely throws you off, because you are completely right. Age in animes is ambiguous.
Yes.
They're either 14, 13, or they're the literal definition of anime grandma, where they are 3 feet tall, hunchback, with a nice little bun, their eyes do not open, and they have a cane.
So this is how I view, you know, anime when it comes to, you know if something's sexy or not. Is that if it's drawn like it's a 21-year-old woman, but they're like it's a 13-year-old girl. It's just like no, she's 21. I don't care.
My fantasy says that's not allowed.
Well, I mean, quite honestly, that really is the beauty of fiction, that people will say, like, no, this is what the canon says. This is what the creator has said. So this is the way it is. Like, this is fiction, guys. You can make fiction be whatever you want it.
You can make fiction more fictional.
Right. Why do you think so many people write their own fan fictions? Because they want to have a participation in it. And so I like to have my own participations, albeit however small they may be, whereas if I don't like the age of a certain character, it's like, I don't believe this character is this age. Not maybe even physically, but also mentally, I don't believe this character. I don't believe Aang is 12 years old. 112, whatever. I don't believe he's 12 years old.
That's a good point, yeah.
I just don't believe it.
Right.
12, 13.
I mean, that means that Zuko is technically like a 12-year-old, and he's like one of the most hard-line.
Well, Zuko's 16.
Oh, is he 16?
Yeah, he's
okay,
16.
You're right.
But
still, he's pretty, edgy for a 16-year-old.
Right.
Even in 16-year-old terms. Continue.
Right, so there's just small things that would bother me. I'm like, you know what? In my own headcanon, I'm going to change this. Because
War of age.
Right. Yeah.
Enter creepy small.
I don't have to be creepy now. I can be turned on by this drawing as much as I want to be.
So before we get back to your thing, I'm really curious now. What age did you make Aang in your head?
I would just have to say that I made Aang sort of just a mid to late high school age. That's kind of what I just looked at him.
For me, it kind of just depended on the scenario. Like, there were some situations where he seemed like a really wise, like.
Well, yeah, but see, let's be honest. I mean, me personally, watching this show, I got really cringy during some of the moments between him and what's her name?
Katara.
Yeah, Katara. But between him and Katara, because it's like, oh, he's like 12. I mean, that's what the show says, and so I mean, I mean, it's like,
just quite honestly,
I felt really just like uncomfortable watching it.
Well, I mean, I never felt uncomfortable about watching it just because it was done as a child romance. It was. At least originally, it was originally done as a child.
Good job,
romance.
Nickelodeon.
At least not on the show.
By the end of the show, when they're only a year older, so he's 13 and Katara's 15, they kiss. Spoilers, if none of you have seen fucking Avatar. But, I mean, there are some people who haven't seen Avatar.
Y'all can die.
It's your fault.
We all judge you.
I mean, you just saw Avatar.
I feel like
a couple years ago.
I feel like the more obvious question is, you had to change his age and stuff. What about Aang was so attractive to you?
Like I said before, wasn't always about the physicality of it. It was also just mentally. Mentally, Aang seemed a lot older to me than 12.
For sure.
Mostly because I have brothers that are that age, and they are not Aang. So I just cannot believe.
Yeah, but your brothers were not raised on a monastery.
It's true that they weren't raised on a monastery. I still don't believe.
Yeah.
Until I meet a child who has been raised on a monastery that is that age and does act like that, has a silly side, yes, but still is fairly mature. Until I see that moment, see that kid, I'm gonna say that I don't believe.
Yeah. So, rabbit trails. Back to Chris.
I guess so. That was basically all out, and like I said, the fact that it feels like a real sports anime, and the character development in the show is actually like a better character development that I've been able to watch in most recent animes that I've seen.
Sure.
Then I guess we're moving on to Keijo, which drew me in with just the episode name. I don't remember what the name of the first episode is, but that show is just...
So, Maverick and Mako, what do you guys know about Keijo?
Absolutely nothing.
All right.
All you have to know.
It is butt volleyball.
Okay, no, I have heard of this.
All you have to know is that there is a special move.
Go on.
All you have to know is that there is a special move called titty hypnosis. Okay? There is the vacuum butt cannon. There is the ass of Varja or something like that, where she turns her ass into practically literal stone. Titty hypnosis. There was like the gate of 1,000 titties or something like that.
Right. It's where it's pretty much like playing volleyball, but the only parts that can touch the ball are
They're not actually touching balls. They're what they call
that's
land.
right.
Yeah, so
That's
basically
right.
it's kind of like sumo wrestling. It's kind of like
show.
sumo wrestling.
Yeah, so they're trying to
It's a volleyball.
Right. Okay, that was my bad. I haven't watched much of the show, but they're pretty much.
Are you trying to look it up?
I was trying to find the name of the episode 1.
It's not on Crunchyroll. It's on Funimation.
No, it's on Crunchyroll.
It was on Crunchyroll.
Oh, okay, yeah. You're right.
But I mean, I
Take that.
The first word was in Japanese word that I wasn't going to try and pronounce on this. So.
Right.
But I mean, essentially, it's basically they're on what they call a land, which is a floating platform in the water, and the only thing you're allowed to use while attacking the enemy female combatant is your titties, your hips, and your ass. If you touch them with other things, you are disqualified. Now, like, just the sheer amount of things these people do is absolutely ridiculous. It takes, like, fan service? Like, people thought, like, High School of the Dead, fan service, blah, blah, blah. This show is actually just 125% fan. They're like, let's take fan service and turn it up a knob.
Yeah, Georgia, I really don't know, the majority of your, people who watch you, how many actual females watch, but to the females who are watching right now, I actually want to pose a question. What does these kind of animes, how do they make you feel? Or do they make you, do they upset you that they exist? Or do they, are they just, the guys have their thing, we have our, animes, you had that swim team anime. What was that?
Free Iwatobi Swim Club?
Yeah.
I actually loved that show.
Yeah, no doubt.
Those dudes were sexy. I can't say no.
I've actually known certain women that have said that they like shows like Keijo, and specifically Keijo. In fact, I can't remember who it was, but I just remember hearing somebody saying, "Oh man, I love Keijo. Keijo's great."
Yeah, I think I might know the girl in which you're talking about, and so I'm kind of looking for more of a broad,
I can't even remember the girl I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
I just know I've talked to maybe a few of them.
You said broad.
I don't get it.
Yes, I
Fuck
do.
all you guys.
We're just leaving you out.
But I'm just looking for
He's
more.
been saying dirty jokes all day, and we have not been reacting.
Yeah, no.
For
Well, I
shame.
mean, because they're awful, dirty jokes. I mean,
what's really funny about Keijo is actually, like, the reason I enjoy that show is not because it has metric amounts of shredded clothes from the sheer wind vacuum created by spinning your fucking ass around or something. Or anything. It's like, he said sure, right? Okay. Whatever.
I know in which you speak
it's
of.
Actually, like, it's one of the
And that's
first
totally not
times since School Rumble, personally, that I've actually laughed, like, deeply at a TV show, at, like, an anime. Because it's actually just, I would never watch it in serious, like, there has to be at least one person in the world that says, Keijo is a serious anime, and I really like it, and it does this, this, and this is why it's great. And it's like, it's actually just hilarious, and I could never, ever take a show like that seriously.
Right.
I would never put it up there with Brotherhood, Cowboy Bebop,
You just have to turn the mute button and the subtitles off of Keijo, just watch it.
Yeah.
and realize that, don't take it seriously.
Oh, for sure. Anybody who takes that show seriously, I don't take it seriously.
The creators didn't want you to take it seriously.
No,
the creators wanted you to enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
Because they enjoyed it.
So,
I kind of put high school DD in the same group.
So we've talked about a couple current ones, but I kind of want Georgia to talk about one more. Would you like to say a couple things about Konosuba?
Konosuba? Yeah. Konosuba, I don't think we're going to get too much into this because we have our own thing with Konosuba.
Of course.
But, what do you, Maverick and Chris, what do you guys know about Konosuba?
Absolutely nothing.
I've watched some of it. I'm trying to remember how far I got. I want to say 6, 7, or 8.
Konosuba is another isekai show. It even begins a lot like a lot of other shows. The first one that comes to mind is Yu Yu Hakusho, where the character dies by pushing somebody out of the way, but then it turns out that he died because he got scared and his heart stopped instead of actually getting run over by a vehicle or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the thing is that once he died, like this happens in the first 5 minutes. So once he died, he is presented with a choice. He can either be reborn into his world, or he can go to heaven, or he can be sent with, as he is now, with all of his memories and whatever still intact, to this other world where their population is dwindling because there is a demon king that is has all his forces out killing everybody.
Does this mean he gets to bang a bunch of bitches?
Well, hold on a second. And
we're getting
there.
His job is to be an adventurer.
Sure.
It's super video gamey because there's actual experience in leveling up in this one.
Okay.
His job is to be an adventurer and to try to be one of the many adventurers who came from his world,
right,
to try to defeat this demon king.
Okay.
Now, the thing about this show is that all the main characters are terrible people, are the worst at what they do.
They're useless.
Completely useless. Every good thing they have about them is made redundant by something else. And the world they live in, the world that they go to, isn't even terrible where it's like, oh, the Demon King's killing everybody, no one's happy right now. It is a beautiful world where everyone's having a great time. Where is the violence of the Demon King? I don't fucking know, because this guy's getting swallowed by a toad. Because they can't...
That reminds me of something, but...
and it is just... The animation in Konosuba so goes with the spirit of just these terrible people having a terrible time in a wonderful world. Konosuba is just a small part of the actual full title, which is very long, which actually translates fully into God's blessing on this wonderful world. And the funny thing is, okay, I won't give away that part actually, but it's just complete comedy, absolutely funny, and the animators in this show have seem to have. I'm stealing this from Mother's Basement, by the way, but they seem to have had the idea, or maybe they actually said this, that they do not intend on drawing any character's face the same way. Like, they are determined with every frame they draw to have the character's face be different.
What?
To have a...
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the whole thing you get... I wouldn't call it a trope, it's more of a style. Anime does a lot of that kind of like freeze frame thing.
Stylized still shots.
Yeah, exactly. Where something's moving.
Okay, right. I get what you're saying now.
But the whole thing is, it does feel very alive and constantly motion. Natural.
It feels very Western anime. Or not animation, I mean. Is that, because Western animation is very... is very much like that in that sense. Whereas Eastern animation or anime, does that still shot stylized.
The only thing moving is my mouth.
Or the background. It'll be a still shot of someone with the background moving by them. That's done to save money. And stuff like that. And then they save money up for the awesome middle episode of this arc or whatever.
Right.
All right. I want to quickly show you just some of the many faces of a character named Aqua in this show. Just check these all out.
Viewers, I hope you're getting a good look as well.
Yep.
Well, I'll put something up. I'm going to be editing this, so
Okay.
I'll put some pictures up.
That one wasn't Aqua. That was someone else.
Get out of here, Sasuke.
I wasn't listening, so all I heard was "Get out of here, Sasuke," and I was like, "Shut up." Yeah. So that's just a brief thing in Konosuba.
So
Is it on Crunchyroll?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll have to check that
it
out
is.
too. I will have to check that out too.
Yeah.
Now I've got to. Really
If you want
start watching
another
that again.
isekai, there's Log Horizon. Okay, I'm done.
Actually, I think Log Horizon did the video game thing much better than any other video game.
Oh, by far.
I loved
Log Horizon.
I just wanted to put that on. I loved Log Horizon.
Log
The
Horizon.
only problem is we're not going to be getting another season, so that sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry for all you people who didn't know that information, but
Anybody who says Sword Art Online is great has not seen Log Horizon.
And if they have seen both and that you like Sword Art Online better, then you're all welcome to have your own opinions. Just know that you are so wrong. And I pray for you. Every night I kneel down and I just
pray to
I cry.
I was just going to bring in the cry.
So, we've talked about a lot of different things, but one of the kind of things that set anime apart from like westernized animation is the openings, the intros to these shows. Even people who are not anime fans will say, "Oh no, anime has the best openings by far of any show that we have in the West."
Right, and it reminds me of the Nostalgia Critics where he was like saying the best openings in shows, and it's like we're not going to include animes in here because fuck, if we did, they would all win.
Yeah. So I want to ask what show do you believe has the best
I
openings?
think for this you got to give top 3 because
Hold on, yeah.
you can't
Don't say
go
best.
one.
Don't say best opening, but just an opening that really means something to you.
Well, I was actually gonna just say broader and say a show that has the best openings in your opinion. Not pick an opening. It's just broaden it up.
Right? Say a few if you want, but just like instead of saying these are the best, just don't even think about what's best, and just think about what they mean to you
what
and which
you
one.
enjoyed, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, for opening wise, I don't really pay that much attention to what's going on in the opening. The music of the opening is what kind of drags me, really in. The Log Horizon, soundtrack song, the opening Log Horizon song is such a dope song.
Mako can attest that I love to listen to.
Oh, yeah.
Every time.
Whoa!
And I think Log Horizon would definitely be up there.
That's getting copyrighted claims.
Yeah, because I was perfect note for note on that.
I think that another one would definitely be Death Note. I loved the music for Death Note. The band, Maximum the Hormone, if you're listening, send us some t-shirts. I love Maximum the Hormone, and the whole Japanese rap metal thing.
It's
where
actually
they
been
still
forever
have this
since
really cutesy girl thing. It was really good.
It has been forever since I've actually watched Death Note, and I cannot remember the music at all.
Oh, dude, the music was great. And the same band did all the opening and outros for it. And then I also just really enjoyed because obviously the older animes, and when I specifically say the older animes, as I didn't specify before, I'm only 25, so when Inuyasha came out in 1999, I was 7. That was being 18 years ago. That counts to me as older, but I do also watch older animes, older than that, which we'll get into later. But Inuyasha's opening and intros were also really I really enjoyed those. Even I also enjoyed what was going on in them. because the music selection that they had back then wasn't, instead of like the really techno-y dubstep, like modern day kind of thing, they took like pop stars and kind of asked them like, hey, this is a fantasy anime about this. Try to make a song that just feels that way. Kind of, it's kind of really hard to explain for me.
Well,
like,
I mean, I can definitely attest that, I understand kind of how you feel, because, I mean, I feel like another show that I've said a lot but haven't really talked about that much was Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail, to me, has some of the best music in anime.
By far. Yes.
Say
Tail
what you want about the show, the writing, the characters,
yeah.
whatever, but the music is phenomenal. And actually, George and I just got done watching the entire opening playlist, and we didn't find one that we didn't like.
Yep.
I mean, they're all just phenomenal and but so diverse.
At least phenomenal to
and
listen to. The
Yes.
actual visuals, we weren't judging.
Yeah, we weren't judging look. If you want judging on visuals and composition and stuff, go watch another channel.
If that channel is watching, please send us some T-shirts.
Right, Mother's Basement. You heard it. You've seen how much advertising we're giving you. All of our millions of viewers are going to be going to you now. So,
all 2 people who actually make it to this part of the show.
hey, there's probably maybe
There's 4 people in the room, and we're only counting 2.
Oh, I won't be watching it.
Oh no, I'm not going to watch this when it goes up.
I was here when it's happened. No.
Do you really watch it, or you kind of just listen?
No, I mean, the picture that I'm going to put up for this
Right.
podcast is going to be so engaging.
So you're telling me that we're gonna have a great intro?
Intro? There's not going to be a fucking intro. Nothing. No, the only thing they get is what we bring to the table, the picture, and of course, all of our Taco Bell advertising.
Of course.
Taco Bell right there.
Every podcast, guys, this is a rule now. Every podcast, we're going to have our Taco Bell.
And based on specifically on the Fairy Tail soundtrack, it's kind of merging it into a different. It's going to just very brief. You both have played Skyrim, I'm assuming.
A little bit.
On PC, there is a mod that you can instead replace the entire Skyrim soundtrack with Fairy Tail.
Ooh,
makes it 100 million times better.
Are we talking original or are we talking 2014?
Fairy Tail?
Yes.
The original.
Sweet.
Yes. You go into a dungeon and hear that first Fairy Tail
I would like
sound.
to choose certain soundtracks from the 2014 soundtrack and add them in there too.
It's actually fantastic.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
As much as Elven Fairyland sounds really great, Fairy Tail battle music is just amazing.
It doesn't come close to the
Yeah, so
And copyright.
Yep, again,
who made Fairy Tail? Was it Fun?
Well, no, Funimation dubbed Fairy Tail. It was Kodansha, Studio Kodansha that was the studio in charge of animating and producing.
Kodansha, if you're listening, please send us some T-shirts.
However, it is Mashima Hiro that was the he is the writer /
Mashima Hiro, please sign my breasts.
his large voluptuous breasts.
look, the thing about the writer is, look, you and I, we've had our issues. I have certain feelings about how you're doing your writing and everything, but whatever.
Mako and Hiro have constantly been butting heads ever since they were small children.
Oh God, but I will say that I really don't know how much influence he has about the music. I don't know how much influence he has toward the music, because I literally will say that I fell in love with Fairy Tail because of the music.
Honestly, that's actually one of the big things that drew me into the show as well. When I first started watching it, I listened to the music, I'm just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Music is what sets a scene.
Which is why I think that once the manga parts that we're reading are adapted into anime, we'll probably enjoy it a lot more. As long as the music is still
right.
what it is.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see if it has a more of a 2014 vibe or original vibe, or if it goes even further than 2014 went.
The new 2018 soundtrack,
Right.
or whenever the fuck they decide to start releasing more episodes.
Right. Well, the movie, God, I can't remember what the movie's called. I think it's called like Dragon Emperor or something like that.
Mhm.
But the movie's almost done, and once they release the movie, they're probably going to start on the show again.
Okay. I'm cool. I'm cool with this. You know, I mean, as I'm caught up on the manga right now. I'm just waiting for more shows, because that's the thing, is I am not enjoying at all where the manga is going right now, and I am very curious to find out if I'll enjoy it more when it becomes an anime.
Right. See, I'm not particularly enjoying it at the moment either, but I am nowhere near as upset about it as Mako is. And there are even some parts where I say, I actually legitimately like this part about it. However, there's one part in particular where that I think I actually hate more than Mako does.
He literally called me and is just like, "Did you read it?"
I was like, this fucking pissed the shit out of me. Quote me on that.
Pissed the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make a comment about that.
I almost
Always make a
didn't,
comment
and it
about
just
that. However, I don't want to talk too much about that, because I actually want to make a separate podcast altogether where I want pretty much just you, me, and another friend of mine. I want us to have this conversation, because a friend of mine is also caught up in the manga, but he's completely 100% into it still. So I wanted all of us to sort of be on the negative, indifferent, and positive. I'm a little more toward negative than I am indifferent, but it's still, I thought it would be a nice dynamic. So maybe sometime in the future we'll get that. We'll have to find out later, but that's not what we're talking about right now.
So I was going to say, that was a wonderful discussion of openings. Thank you for that.
Yes. We like fairy tale openings.
Yeah, fairy tale openings, yeah. Those are good.
It's hard to say, which ones are great, which ones aren't great. I mean, I think I prefer the ending of Konosuba. I feel like that gives a better thing. No, the opening's good, all right. The ending's good. I like Nanbaka's opening. Oron's opening is one of my favorite. Fairy Tail, One Piece, and Full Metal all have legendary openings.
Indeed.
Full Metal, perhaps more legendary than the others.
Yes,
But-
true.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, Fighting Dreamers,
Right, Fighting Dreamers. The catchiest song Naruto has ever put out, with the laziest animation.
Still! We are fighting dreamers.
Yeah.
Copyright.
In case nobody noticed, I did actually name my episode 3 of Dream Drop Distance "Fighting Dreamers." So, yeah.
Wow.
Chris, it looks like you're biting your tongue about something. What do you have to
I
say?
didn't want to interrupt anybody, but somehow it just clicked into my head. Speaking of older animes, older in quotations, I think one of the most recognized anime openings, Cowboy Bebop.
Oh,
yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Like, honestly, I'm pretty sure I still could recite the entirety of the opening with only my voice. And then also,
But before we move on from Cowboy Bebop,
Sure.
let's just point out that this is probably one of the most original
easily.
Japanese anime
Yes.
openings ever.
Not just openings, but just anime.
Just animes
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Which is, like I said, I'll get into, later on
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Uh-huh.
Number 2 is, like, obviously it depends on, like, what your genre of music, and if we're, like, I don't really like the genre as a whole, but the Samurai Champloo, Samurai Champloo intro was also, like,
Afro
really,
Samurai.
like, also the show Samurai Champloo in general, like, the whole hip-hop, like, Edo period, like, Japan was, like, really a great mix and kind of just felt really good. So I really enjoyed the intros to both of those, and there's obviously a plethora of others but those two just, like, fucking hit me in the side of the head like a brick.
Of course. I would like to point out that I'm not sure Maverick was done.
No, basically.
That's why I said I didn't want to
while you're
interrupt
discussing
anybody.
something, I thought of another one. Yuri on Ice has a great intro, and I've never even seen
As Peter just orgasmed.
Yeah.
CPR.
I really like that opening.
And I've never seen a single episode of it.
You're right.
Actually, same. Like, you showed me the intro, right?
I did. I showed
That-
you.
yeah.
I showed you. The
I have
He
not
makes
yet.
it. He makes it a point to show anyone.
I mean, it's a great intro.
Yes.
Like, the animation
Walking
quality
down
of
the
the intro.
street. Hey,
That
I
is
was
actually one that I can specifically say I noticed the quality of the animation in the intro. Usually I notice the music, and with that one specifically, it was the quality of the animation.
You just couldn't tear your eyes away. I mean,
Correct.
The music is so beautiful, but it just meshes so well with the flowing of the movement of
Correct.
the characters of both Yuri and what's his teacher's name?
Oh god damn it. Fuck.
Senpai!
Victor.
Victor. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of both Yuri's and Victor.
Yes. It was. It's just phenomenal, and really, I think that's what an opening should be. It's a hook that draws you into it, and
But sometimes you don't want that hook to be,
Too much?
too much, such as your issue that you had with One Piece.
well, see, I will 100% not argue with the fact that that's a me problem and no one else problem. I will 100% understand that no one else had that problem but me.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there are other people who have.
Right.
You're not
No,
that spe-
no
you're
one
not-
ever.
You're not that special. You're not the only person who didn't like One Piece the first episode.
I do have one question about the intro on Yuri.
56, 58.
Okay.
Here's my question. Did the intro, what grabbed you in the intro, did it have anything to do with the fact that you could understand some of the lyrics?
No.
Speaking on
Absolutely
any
not.
intro in general, or
No,
your
you're
race?
on
Okay,
X.
okay.
Absolutely
'Cause
not.
For me, it was.
Okay.
Personally, I wasn't, because there was a period in my life, and still somewhat, that I actually really, really enjoy international music. And so, whether the fact I can understand what they're saying or not doesn't really impact the fact that it doesn't really impact my enjoyment of listening. Because I don't understand a damn word of Japanese except for, oh, hello, or konnichiwa, or some random ass.
There was just-
I took Japanese in high school. I think the only thing I vaguely remember how to say is, let's go to your house.
How do you say that?
Fuck, now that I gotta think about it, you put me on the spot. Boku wa anata wo... Fuck, I can't remember the word of the house.
I don't know that.
Judge him, comment section.
Yes! Judge me, comment section. Tell me how to say it so when I go to Japan I can take a girl home.
What?
I have a girlfriend. That is not going to happen. Continue!
So actually, I actually think that this is we've talked about a lot of things. It is actually getting really late, and we need to start wrapping this up. So I'm going to go ahead and say closing comments. Anything that you are itching to say before we wrap up?
I know, Chris, that you have something specific, but how...
Right.
Yeah, I know. Chris is just like, later. We'll talk about later. We'll talk about later. He's like, man, how do I put this into one?
I would like to point out that it's almost 4 a.m. So
Right. So, I mean, I would go... I'll go last.
Okay, you'll go last. Peter.
I just wanted to pretty much just back on the opening section is that even though I identify that they might not be the best crafted openings, that the openings that I think you'll agree with me, Mako, but the openings that just have such a soft place in our hearts are the One Piece openings.
Oh,
Like,
without a doubt.
more than most other openings. We can name almost all of the openings with. We have a worst to best list that we actually plan on making a video out of to talk about which ones we consider to be best to worst or worst to best. And, I just love the One Piece openings. They mean something specifically for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I just kind of wanted to close off with that.
Yeah, no, I 100% I hear that. Maverick, closing thoughts. Anything you want to get out before we get out of here?
I think I'm good. I mean, we've talked some good anime, and That's
Bad
about it.
anime, Sword Art Online.
Well, I mean, I didn't talk about that one because I've not seen it.
Here, see no evil.
Yeah.
One thing I haven't really gotten a chance to talk about was I'll do it real quick. An anime that now that I'm trying to think of it, I can't think of the name of that anime that I like. That was about the robots coming from space. You remember that?
You talking about Gurren Lagann?
No, I'm not.
You took up the frog robots.
No.
Sergeant Frog was actually great.
Robots that come from space.
Yeah.
Oh, Alnoa Zero.
Yeah, Alnoa Zero.
Okay, I was
Thank
gonna
you.
say, we just referenced three.
No.
different ones where robots come from space.
I really, really enjoyed Alnoa Zero. But the funny thing is I got introduced to that show because Screw Attack, who does Death Battle, did Iron Man versus Lex Luthor. And at the end of that, they put in some fucking amazing ass music that I was like, what is this from? So I went down the comments, and all the comments were like, wow, did you hear that? They had an Alnoa Zero soundtrack in there. And I was like, well, what the fuck is Alnoa Zero? And so I typed it in, found this music, and I literally found Alnoa Zero because of a soundtrack. And I have to say that the music of Alnoa Zero is really spot on also. It's really good. I can't tell anyone whether or not, if I'll say watch it for the music. If you like the show, great. If you don't, you heard some great music.
That is a really interesting point, though, because you found that one from a YouTube video. Two of my favorites that I've seen are from AMVs. Both Hellsing and Nunbaka I found only because of AMVs.
Yeah.
All right, so Chris,
The floor is yours.
So this might actually.
Please try and
I'm not
keep
going
it
to try
brief.
to keep it super long.
Just
So
leave the
basically,
equipment
it's
here
what we've
and
been
run around.
right. It's been what I've been leading up to this entire show. Basically, I have a personal preference for an older style of anime, which is kind of like, not only my version of older, but also some other people's version of older. I'm not sure how old the listeners might be, but there's Star Blazer, which the quality of the animation was terrible. The voice acting was just the absolute worst because I'm Wildstar and I want to fire the wave motion cannon. And then for some reason, the aliens all changed skin color halfway through the show. All of them. The aliens were one race, and at one point they were green, and suddenly they were not green.
did you watch the Japanese version of the show as well?
No, because I watched it on VHS.
Oh.
Yes, my dad's friend had the entirety of the series on VHS.
Have you considered going back to watching Japanese and see how different it is from the
Oh
English dubbing?
God, I do now because I'm really interested. But I mean, it goes from that to Thundercats to the original Gundam Wing, Gundam Fight. I think Gundam Fighters is the most recent one. Iron-Blooded Orphans is also really good, by the way, in case you're interested in robot-y kind of things. Mm-hmm. It's completely unrelated to most other Gundam animes, so check it out if you want to. But it's a very good storyline. Anyway, so my personal preference when it comes to older animes, such as in my version, Samurai Champloo, Scryed, Cowboy Bebop, Wolf's Rain, the original Full Metal Alchemist, although I do now cap Brotherhood is obviously leaps and bounds better than the original one. And Lupin the Third, even. I personally feel like that was kind of like a golden age of anime, whether it's because it's how I started. You might think that this current age of anime that you guys are starting in is your golden age of anime because it's what you started with. And when I started with those shows, it felt like all of that had already been done, and what's being currently released, it kind of just feels like I've most certainly already seen it, just with a different skin. It's hard for me to get into a new anime currently because I'd be watching it and I just feel I've basically already seen this. Just, it was called this and that character looked like this kind of thing. And it's trying to find originality these days is so hard. that's why I really enjoyed Attack on Titan, not only because of the originality factor, quote unquote, but also, like I said previously, the realistic emotions in an unrealistic scenario. And All Out, personally, is because it's kind of original because there's been no other rugby anime. There's another anime I'm currently watching called Fuka, which is based on a band, and the only other band anime that I've watched was Beck Mongolian Chop Squad, which is kind of, and I rarely hear people talk about it, so it kind of feels like a cult, like a cult following sort of. But that's just kind of how I feel when it comes to older animes versus newer animes. And I also just really enjoyed the older art style of it. The Inuyasha times and Cowboy Bebop specifically, because as we talked about before, Cowboy Bebop is one of, if not the most original, like, Japanese animation. The entire soundtrack for Cowboy Bebop, God rest its 26 episodes or whatever it only was just amazing. And the movie that actually came out, have you seen the movie for Cowboy Bebop?
No, I haven't.
It was actually, I think it's called Knocking on Heaven's Door. It was also actually really, really good.
Right.
So that's just how I personally feel when it comes to, because it's just hard for me to find interest in something that doesn't feel original anymore.
Right. So I'm real quick. I'm kind of curious. Would you put One Punch Man in your original?
I have not actually seen One Punch Man.
Okay, so then if that's the case, One Punch Man I think is coming to Netflix, but it's also on Hulu. Mm-hmm. And along with One Punch Man, there's another show written by the same author, pen name One. Like literally O-N-E, his pen name is One, he wrote Mob Psycho 100. They're both thematically similar, and Mob Psycho 100 in particular, along with the animation, is very original. Mm. And I have a feeling that you might actually like Mob Psycho 100 more than One Punch Man, but I think you'd like both of them.
Also, based on the originality factor when we're talking about Cowboy Bebop, I think that a good rival for originality would have to be Ghost in the Shell.
Looking forward to that movie?
Don't even talk to me about that movie!
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a good note to leave on. So,
Depends on who you ask.
I will say that this has been a good session. This is Mako. We're signing off with the Hypocritical Gamer, Chris and Maverick.
Good night.
We will go ahead and see you in the next one. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson certainly makes a good Asian.
Fuck you!